Another edition of the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. I'm in my office here this afternoon, and the lighting isn't the best, so I apologize if my face looks dark and evil. But we'll get the light in here to shine on me better, to lighten up my face for sure, as I kind of get accustomed to my new office here in Alpharetta. I came across this article in Forbes today that was actually pretty interesting that I want to share with you all, because the lady who writes it says, a solution for the top concern in retirement planning, which is running out of money. And so the top concern for retirement planning is running out of money. And that actually bothers me significantly. And I'm going to share with you why. But they've done a study, lots and lots of studies about what retirees are most concerned with. And running out of the money is the number one concern. And I imagine that's true because everyone's worried about if they quit their job, will they have to go back to work? You're 7 years old and they want to be a Walmart greeter or something like that. So they're like, look, we got to make sure our money stays basically until we go to our greater reward. So I want to share some information on this because a long time ago, there's a guy named Ty Bernicki in 2005 had written an article in the Journal for Financial Planning, which totally upended the industry. Most of the industry hasn't paid much mind to it, but I have, and I followed Ty's stuff for a long time. This was probably the seminal article I've ever read in my life when it came to retirement planning. Now, in 2005, I just got my CFP, Certified Financial Planning designation. I'd been in the business at that point for about 7 years or so. But everyone was focused on retirement planning with the 4% rule, and you need to have inflation adjustment. You need to have enough to keep growing and growing and growing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Ty writes this article. He called it Reality Retirement Planning. And he ran some numbers based on the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the Consumer Expenditure Survey. And here's what he says, actually, is absolutely amazing. He says, using Monte Carlo simulation, the paper runs hypothetical retirement income projections comparing traditional retirement planning with reality retirement planning. Under the traditional approach, the couple's nest egg would be depleted by the time they're 80 years old. But under the reality approach, the nest egg at age 80 would be over $2 million. So the traditional approach, they had nothing at 80. Under the reality approach, they actually had $2 million, a significant divergence between what's going to happen to the average retiree. The interesting thing was he's basing this on BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics studies on the average retiree. And what he said, what I think is actually interesting, because what he says, and why I took to this, because it's true for me too, there are dramatically different spending tendencies between my firm's younger and older retirement clients serve as a catalyst for the study. So basically, he's dealing with people. His younger clients are basically paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. And he says, many of my younger retirees had problems spending within the income parameters of their retirement plans, while the majority of our older retirees are spending far less than what they could afford. It is my opinion that these spending tendencies hold the key to a much larger picture, which includes creating more realistic retirement projections by making adjustments to the traditional retirement planning approach. I'm telling you, this was huge. And unfortunately, a lot of the retirement planners, a lot of certified financial planners and whatnot, did not take this as true as what they probably ought to. In fact, there's a guy named Jonathan Clements who wrote in the Wall Street Journal. He actually took issue a little bit. It was favorable. I mean, it's fair, but he took issue with Ty's findings. He said, maybe people, as they get older, they spend less because they've simply run out of money. And, Ty agreed with that. I said, that could be. But in his experience, in my experience too, frankly, is that wasn't the case. Maybe if you go into retirement, you have $50,000, you're going to run out of money, and thus your retirement spending will drop down. But anecdotal evidence with Ty, me, and I think a lot of people in this industry who are dealing with people who've squirreled away a little bit of assets finds that most people, again, anecdotal, but we have BLS numbers to kind of back that up too, don't spend as much as they thought they would in retirement. In fact, they spend significantly lower. So what happens is they retire, they increase in spending a little bit, usually when they hit 60 to 65 to 70. Just initially, they're enjoying it. And then it just drops off a cliff. And I've said this before in various videos. But we have all kinds of studies on this. It drops by 22% between 70 and 80, and another 21% between 80 and 90. And you can run the numbers of parameters any way you want, but there's a number of studies now that show research that the average retiree spending drops and drops significantly as they age. And again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The perfect example of that is my client I had who had Redskins season tickets passed down for generations. He is about 80 years old or so when he sells them back to Dan Snyder. He just got tired of going to the games. So of course, paying the PSL fee, which just gives you the privilege to buy the stupid tickets to begin with, is a pain. But going out there and freezing your butt off all day long, he didn't want anything to do with that anymore. So that was a pretty significant expenditure he no longer had that he did have when he was younger. And I've seen that happen time and again, and Ty's work confirms that. Now, again, is that true? This is in 2005. Is it true today? Well, so we used this lady from Forbes. She linked to let's see, I'll show you right here. Let's see here. She linked to right here, an article from thefool.com. And I use thefool.com quite a bit. But the guy from thefool.com wrote, and this is the Motley Fool, and you might be familiar with them. They've been around for a long, long time. But this guy actually took, again, more U.S. BLS statistics, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and he found the average retiree spent $3,700 a month, $3,700 a month. So here's his article right here, which I find it to be incredibly interesting. And he just breaks it down. And this is real world evidence. Again, anecdotal. It's just this guy. But here's what the average retired American's budget looks like. And I tell you, I've seen this. I could not agree more. And what he writes is, he says basically housing is the number one expense. If I can get down there, I'll show you. Right there, $1,200 a month or $1,300 a month is the average retiree's expenses. Now, there's a huge asterisk that I see. Then I see that you need to have your debt paid off. I mean, it's all there is to it. If you have your mortgage paid off, it won't be anything because you're still going to have property taxes and maintenance and whatnot. But if you have your mortgage paid off, the whole world is your oyster at that point. I'm just telling you. But let me use me as an example. I have 4 kids. I live in a relatively big house in a relatively affluent community in North Fulton County, Georgia. I want to take advantage of the schools and whatnot. When we hit retirement, when my kids get out of school, I'm not going to stay in that house. I'm going to sell it. We're going to downsize. And hopefully we'll have enough equity in that home in order to buy a house, a 3-bed, 2.5-bath or something like that, a 1/4 acre, like most people do when they hit retirement. Hopefully we can just pay cash money with our sold house for the house we go, my wife and I, Charlotte, into retirement with. If that's the case, I'd even expect this would be on the high end, actually. But you're still going to have property taxes. You're still going to have maintenance and whatnot. So let's just say, we'll use this number for an example, $1,300 a month. So certainly a heck of a lot better than a $3,000 a month mortgage. Now, it does include escrow, but don't forget, you're going to downsize. So your escrow is going to go down as well. Your homeowner's insurance will go down because you're not insuring that size of a house. Your not state income tax, your real estate tax are going to go down too, simply because the house doesn't cost as much. When you get to 65, a lot of states will give you, basically an exemption for being a senior citizen as well. Now, that's all big stuff there. So I assume that will go down quite a bit. He's using about $600 a month in transportation costs, going back and forth to see the grandkids and whatnot. That seems on the high end to me, but okay. $500 a month for health care. That's going to be Medicare B and D premiums and any other co-pays that you have to pay. And that seems probably pretty right there too. He has food, about $500 a month. For me, that'll probably be a little bit low because I do love to eat some steaks and whatnot. But we'll just say $500 a month there. And then he's got entertainment, about $200 a month. Yeah, maybe. My entertainment consists of going to the library. So, at the end of the day, that makes sense. So basically what he's saying is, for basically $3,700 a month, you can retire pretty comfortably. And so I just take $3,700 a month, my trusty calculator here, times that by 12, and that gives me $44,000 a year. 45, can you all see that, of income that I need, $45,000 a year. So now what do? Is I go over to my trusty little Social Security and we're going to see what an average PIA is, primary insurance amount. Remember, we talked about Social Security on multiple occasions here. So if I need $45,000 a year to retire, and I'm just using old Bob and Jane. Bob and Jane are always in our system here. Now, Bob had an AIME, an average index monthly earnings of $4,000 a month, which meant his PIA, primary insurance amount. If you're not up to snuff what I'm talking about, go back to my video right there. I'm linking to it right there. So he has $1,800 a month at his full retirement age at 66. And again, we're just assuming in this case, Jane did not work. She did not work. She raised the kids. So at full retirement age, her insurance amount will be half of Bob's PIA, $910 a month. So let's just add these two together. We got 1819 plus 909 equals 2728 times 12. So right there, basically $33,000 a year is coming from their Social Security. They needed $44,000. 33 is coming from Social Security. So they need $11,000 a year. Divide that by 4%. That means they need a portfolio of $275,000. That's it. Now, that's high. A lot of people don't have that. I get that. A lot of people need to get that. That's for sure. That's a fact. But I mean, we're not talking multi-millions here, folks. And going back to Ty's initial thing where he said the difference is running out of money at 80 or having 2 million at 80 is based on your spending habits. And if we assume your spending habits are just going to go on this linear adjustment each and every year with inflation, that's just not good planning. It's not. It's a horrible planning because it assumes something that's not going to be in fruition, that's not going to come to fruition, where we have evidence that does not happen. Evidence. Now, could it happen to you? Sure. Which is why you got to reinvest in your plan every year. You can't just say, oh, I did a plan when I was 63 years old. Now I'm 85 and my plan, it's still good. But it's crazy talk. So remember, at the end of the day, having a portfolio of $275,000, I'm just looking at my calculator, gives you enough income you need to live on top of your Social Security with about $45,000 a year. Do you need more than that? Maybe. And then we might need a bigger portfolio. We might need to do some finagling when it comes to Social Security, like wait until we're 70, start pulling it. Maybe Jane has income, like my wife. She hasn't worked for a few years now, but she'll go back in the workforce at some point. She has about 8 years of career behind her when we lived in Phoenix, Arizona. So her her primary insurance amount will probably be more than half of mine, actually. So in that case, we'll have more than just half of what my PIA is. She'll have her own benefit. On top of that, she'll be working at some point, even if it's only making $25,000, $30,000 a year. It'll add to her Social Security adjusted average index monthly earnings, which will add to her PIA, which will add to our bottom line when all said and done. On top of that, we might, as you get older, you might spend less. You might not even spend that $1,200, $1,300 a month on your housing. Who knows? We just don't know. But that's why a financial plan needs to be revisited each and every year just to make sure we're tracking. Don't forget, too, the markets could drop. If the markets drop 50%, like we did in 2007 and 2009 and 2000 to 2001, 2, and 3, we need to adjust accordingly. But at the end of the day, if you can shoot for, say, $300,000 in your portfolio and just getting basic Social Security here, we're not talking swinging for the fences. You might even have an AIME of more than that. Again, that's averaging, $50,000 a year. If you have an AIME where you're averaging $70,000, $80,000 a year, it's going to be significantly, not significant, it'll be higher than this right here. So if you have an AIME more than what I'm showing you here with Bob, and say your spouse works or works a little bit more than what Jane has, which is none, the world's your oyster. You don't need to worry about having $1 million. Now, would you? Should you? Sure. But don't get too caught up. And the number one worry about retirement is running out of money. Don't let that be you. It's just not worth it. Now, again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Don't start lighting cigars with $100 bills, folks. But my goodness, relax. Take that deep breath. Look at your portfolio, look at your Social Security, and look at your income needs. As I've said in another video, which I'm linking to right there, if we can get those three things squared away, we're in a good place to analyze when you're ready to retire. So if you want to talk about this for yourself, just call or email me. We'll get that party started for sure. Even if you don't, that's fine. Just do it yourself. The three things: your PIA, primary insurance amount. What is your primary insurance amount? Number 2, the size of your portfolio, the size of your liquid net worth. And number 3, the big one, how much money do you need to live on? Not just a rule of thumb of 80% rule. That's crazy talk. That's just, don't do that. get down in the dirt and say to yourself, how much do we really need on to live on? And once we can find that number out, we can do a lot of good for you to take some of the stress off when it comes to your retirement planning. All right, folks. Hey, thanks for coming in again to the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. As always, give me a thumbs up, thumbs up. Sorry about the lighting in here. Sorry about that. We'll get that fixed when I come back tomorrow. I got a little lamp back there, but I need to put one in a different place there. And comments always welcome. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.